Hi, I'm Kathy Dawson, one of the tutors at Seeds of Literacy, and today's lesson is about one of the elements of fiction. In reading books, there's nonfiction, there's fiction, there's poetry, but we're going to focus on fiction today. There are 6 elements of fiction. I'm going to talk about the first element, and with each successive lesson, we'll be adding another element. So, in the plot, which is one of the elements of fiction, there are actually 5 elements of the plot. So we're going to go over that. The first element is called exposition. And this is basically your book's introduction. It's where the author introduces the setting, introduces some of the characters. And I just got done reading this book called The Last List of Miss Judith Pratt. And after I finished it, I thought, okay, this is a good book. But in my opinion, as a reader, the author spent way too much time in the exposition. It's giving a lot of history. There wasn't a lot of dialogue. There wasn't a lot of character development. It was just like, oh, come on. Let's get to the story here. So they tell you, I don't know who they are, but within the first 50 pages of a book, the author needs to hook you, or you're not going to want to, at least I'm not going to want to stay with the book. I hung in there, and at 100 pages, the author finally started to get some action going. So if you're writing a story, you're going to know you need to get things going sooner, even if it's a short story. So that's called the exposition. The next element of the plot is called the rising action. So this is the part in the story that feels a little bit like a roller coaster, in that there's several moments of conflict, but with each moment of conflict, it's like mini conflict. It's like a roller coaster in that you're going up the hill, right? That feeling of get out. It's that, oh my gosh, the excitement, and you're just going up and up and up with all these things happening. And that's where the author's really grabbing it, okay? Now, the next one is the climax. So this is the peak of the plot. This is the point where the tension's been really building and it's at its height. And many times at this point, things change in the story. I don't know about you, but when I'm reading a story, there's 2 voices in my head. The one is listening to the story, and the other one is figuring out, well, which way is this going to go? Gosh, is this character going to do this, or is this character going to do that? And then, so at the climax, you finally get to find out what's going to happen. It's a real high point in the story. Now, the fourth part of the plot, the fourth element, is called falling action. So this is where some of these little conflicts, and maybe even a larger conflict, starts to resolve. So things are starting to calm down a bit, because it's hard to read a book where everything's like, you got to somehow bring it in, right? So this is, I would say, probably the second half to 3/3 of the book is the falling action, where things are starting to get resolved. And the last piece of the plot is called resolution or denouement, which is like a French word for resolution. This is where loose ends are being tied up. You're either going to have a happy ending or you're going to have a tragic ending. There's nothing worse than either reading a book or watching a television show or a series where it ends and you think, well, wait a minute, what's the end of the story? And I don't feel satisfied, right? Well, in a really good book, when it ends, you feel really satisfied. So in this book, it took a while, but by the end of the book, I was very satisfied and felt very resolved, and still be able to talk about it. I'm in a book club with a friend. It's just the 2 of us. And we just spent an hour and a half on our patio chatting about this. And a lot of books, in fiction books, they have questions, reading group guide, which really gets you thinking about whatever fiction book you're reading. So that's a lot of fun. Now, if an author is writing a series of books, like I remember when our son was like maybe 12, 13, 14, he read this series, which I don't know if it's still out or not. It's called Goosebumps. And they were kind of like spooky stories, mysteries kind of thing. And so that author is going to give you a cliffhanger. So you're not maybe going to get the resolution at the end of that story because they want you to want to read the next book. Same thing with television. You know, these long series on Netflix, they are doing this on purpose because they want you to tune into the next show in the series. So that's called a cliffhanger. So those are the 5 pieces or elements to a plot in a fiction story. I think the next time we're going to talk about either character or setting or perhaps both. But reading a story that has all these elements in it by an author who knows how to weave them into the story, oh my gosh, there's nothing better. It totally transports you. So I'm very excited for you that you either are reading or you're learning to read because it opens up your whole world. So on that note, I will end the lesson and I'll see you next time.